One of the greatest discoveries of my life was this: the way you think determines the way you live, and the difference between a worker and a leader, it's not the paycheck, not the title, not the office size, it's the mindset. See, I've met people who have worked 30 years in the same place, still waiting for someone to tell them what to do, and I've met leaders who didn't even have a title, but everyone followed them because of the way they thought. A worker says, "I'll do my job." A leader says, "I'll take responsibility." A worker waits for direction. A leader creates direction. A worker sees what is. A leader imagines what could be. When I was young, I used to think success was about working harder. So I worked long hours, took no breaks, did everything my boss asked, and I was exhausted. Then one day my mentor said, "Jim, you're working hard, but you're not thinking hard." That hit me like a lightning bolt. He said, "If you spend all your time doing, you'll never have time becoming, and the man who becomes more valuable, he leads. The one who only does, he stays where he is." Think about it. A farmer doesn't spend his time arguing with the soil. He understands seasons, timing, preparation. He leads his land through wisdom, not labor alone. And that's the lesson I want you to carry with you today. If you want to change your results, don't just change your work, change your thinking. Because until your mindset upgrades, your life can't. So let's talk today about how to shift your thinking from the worker's mindset to the leader's mindset, because the worker survives, but the leader thrives. The worker asks for permission, the leader takes initiative. The worker focuses on tasks, the leader focuses on purpose. And here's the truth: you can be a leader right where you are. You don't need a title to lead. You need a vision, a standard, and a decision to think differently. As my mentor told me years ago, "Jim, don't ask for things to get easier, ask to get better. Don't wait for someone to promote you. Promote yourself in the way you think." That's when I stopped being a worker and started becoming a leader. And that's when everything in my life began to change. Now, let me be honest with you. I understand the worker's life. It's tough. You wake up early, you fight through traffic, you show up, you put in your hours, and you go home tired. You think, "I'm doing my best. Why am I still stuck?" I get it, because I was there once. I worked hard, showed up early, stayed late, followed every instruction, and yet my results didn't move. It felt unfair. Maybe you feel that too. You're giving your time, your effort, your energy, and somehow it feels like it's not enough. And that's okay, because most people were never taught how to think differently. School taught us what to think, not how to think. It taught us to follow rules, not to create them. And society has conditioned us to believe, work harder and success will come. But that's not entirely true. You see, hard work is important, but it's not enough. If hard work alone guaranteed success, every construction worker would be a millionaire. It's not just about how much you work, it's about how you think while you work. That's where leadership begins. You can't think like an employee and expect to live like an executive. You can't think like a follower and expect to lead the parade. Leadership isn't about control, it's about perspective. It's the ability to see beyond your task, to understand the purpose behind the work. It's about lifting your eyes from the desk to the horizon, and I know it's easy to feel small in a big organization. You might think, "Who am I to lead? I don't make the rules." But leadership isn't about position, it's about posture. Every time you decide to take ownership of your time, your effort, your results, you are leading yourself. In self-leadership always comes before public leadership. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they wait for opportunity instead of preparing for it. They wait for someone to notice them instead of developing themselves. You see, life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're ready for, and readiness begins in the mind. So if you've been feeling like your effort isn't enough, I want you to know you're not broken. You're just one mindset shift away from the next level, because the moment you start thinking like a leader, the world will start treating you like one. So how do we make the shift? How do we go from the mindset of a worker to that of a leader? Here's the first key. Stop trading time for value. Start creating value with time. A worker thinks, how many hours can I give? A leader thinks, what results can I produce? The worker counts hours, the leader counts impact. Let me give you an example. Two people work the same 8 hours. One does exactly what's asked. The other finds a better way to do it. Guess which one becomes indispensable? That's leadership. It's innovation, initiative, insight. The next shift is this. Stop focusing on what you have to do and start focusing on who you have to become. When you focus only on tasks, you limit your growth. But when you focus on transformation, on becoming wiser, sharper, stronger, you multiply your value. The worker asks, what's the minimum required? The leader asks, what's the maximum potential? That's the difference between mediocrity and mastery. And here's another truth. Leaders take responsibility even when it's not their fault. Workers say, that's not my job. Leaders say, let's fix it. Responsibility attracts respect. Ownership builds influence. So when something goes wrong, don't point, step up. Because every time you take responsibility, you grow your credibility. And then there's the biggest shift of all. Leaders think long term. The worker thinks about the paycheck. The leader thinks about the legacy. The worker says, what do I get today? The leader asks, what am I building for tomorrow? You see, leadership is not about speed, it's about direction. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. The worker asks, what do I need to do? The leader asks, why are we doing it? Once you start asking why, you start seeing more clearly. You start to rise above the noise of the crowd. You begin to think strategically instead of reactively, and when that happens, when your thinking elevates, your entire life begins to shift. Because when you think like a leader, you don't wait for opportunity. Now, let's talk about empowerment, how to live this mindset every day. The first step is discipline. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. Leadership starts in the mirror. Wake up with intention. Plan your day before the day plans you. Don't drift. Direct. Jim Rohn used to say, the same wind blows on us all. The difference is the set of the sail. Your habits are your sails. A worker says, I'll do it when I feel like it. A leader says, I'll do it because it's right. Discipline builds trust with yourself and others. The second step is learning. Workers wait to be trained. Leaders train themselves, read, listen, observe, grow. Every new skill increases your value. Every new insight sharpens your decision making. If you learn one new idea a week, you'll be unrecognizable in a year. The third step is vision. Leaders don't just work. They work towards something. Without a vision, effort loses meaning. Ask yourself daily, what am I building? Why does it matter? Who does it help? That clarity turns ordinary tasks into purposeful actions. And finally, communication. Leaders know how to speak, how to listen, and how to influence. Workers share information. Leaders share inspiration. Learn to encourage, to appreciate, to challenge. People don't follow titles. They follow energy. So build your energy. Protect your mindset. Surround yourself with people who think bigger. Because if you spend time with complainers, you'll start complaining. If you spend time with creators, you'll start creating. Leadership is contagious. Make sure you're spreading the right virus. Empowerment is not about power, it's about purpose. It's about being the person who brings clarity in confusion, calm in chaos, and hope in hardship. And once you start living this way, leading from within, you'll notice something amazing. People will start asking for your opinion. They'll start looking up to you. They'll start following you. Because leaders are not appointed, they're recognized. Now, imagine this shift fully taking root in your life. You walk into your workplace tomorrow, not as a worker, but as a leader. You don't wait for instruction, you look for opportunity. You don't ask, what do I have to do? You ask, what can I improve? You stop complaining about problems and start creating solutions. and suddenly the energy changes, your boss notices, your coworkers notice, you begin to rise, not because of luck, but because of leadership. People start trusting your judgment. You become the person others rely on in moments of uncertainty. You gain influence, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. And here's what's fascinating. The more you think like a leader, the less you'll be limited by your environment. A worker sees walls, a leader sees doors, a worker waits for opportunity, a leader builds it, a worker asks for permission, a leader gives himself the green light. Leadership is freedom. It's the freedom to design your life instead of reacting to it. And that's what I want for you, because if you can lead your mind, you can lead your world. If you can control your attitude, you can control your altitude. So never underestimate the power of a single decision, to think differently. It's that decision that turns labor into legacy. Remember, you can't build a better company, family, or future until you first build a better you. That's where leadership begins. In the quiet moments when you choose growth over comfort, vision over routine, excellence over average. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just work a job, you built a life. You didn't just follow orders, you created opportunities. You didn't just survive, you led. That's the power of thinking like a leader. So, my friend, here's my final message to you. Don't think like a worker waiting for someone to open the door. Think like a leader. Build your own door. Don't wait for the next raise. Raise your value. Don't wait for things to get easier. Get stronger, wiser, better. Leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking charge of your thoughts, your time, your choices, because life will always respond to the kind of person you decide to become. You can't control the economy, the company, or the circumstances, but you can control your attitude, your effort, and your growth. And the person who does that consistently, intentionally, becomes unstoppable. So from this day forward, stop saying, I'm just a worker. Say, I'm a leader in training. Say, I'm building something great. Say, I'm becoming more valuable every day, and then go prove it by how you think, how you act, and how you live. Remember, success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. Think like a leader, not a worker, and your future will thank you for it.